Rumors have begun circulating that PlayStation is working on their own version of Xbox Game Pass, which they kind of already have to an extent with PlayStation Now, but expanding it into a new form that some of the implications and ideas behind what's being rumored is really interesting. Now, before we get into the main meat of this, one thing I do want to emphasize is that this is currently a rumor. It is just a report on Bloomberg that other news sites are pulling from as well for the moment. And given Bloomberg's track record the past couple of years, especially with the whole Switch Pro thing going on that a lot of people lost trust in, this is something that I always take with a grain of salt. I will say, though, this particular article was written by Jason Schreier, whose overall track record is much stronger. So the main kind of aspect of this rumor is that supposedly in spring of 2022, that's at least the planned time for right now, that could always change, Sony is going to be launching their own new version of PlayStation Plus, which is a collapsed version of PlayStation Plus with PlayStation Now and new features added on top of that. The idea is that this new service, probably still keeping the name PlayStation Plus, we could call it PlayStation Plus Plus for now, I guess, just to keep the differentiation in mind. The idea is that this Plus Plus service would have 3 different levels. The bottom level would be the same as current PlayStation Plus. Play online games, get the occasional free title, good to go. The second tier would add the benefits that are kind of standard with PlayStation Now right now, being able to access a library of PS4 games that you can download and play, kind of similar to Game Pass, as well as over time adding PS5 games to that catalog as well. Now, the third tier is where things get a lot more interesting, and I think the kind of tinfoil hat speculation begins to start to spiral a little more that you maybe want to keep in check a little bit, is the idea that on top of these other features, the service would also add access to PS1, PS2, and PS3 games. Again, I want to emphasize this is a rumor from an anonymous source that is supposedly trustworthy, but information can always be outdated, things can be in flux, plans can change, so let's keep in that mind as we talk about this concept of older games on the service. Now, this already exists to some extent, right? PlayStation Now originally started as a PS3 service, and it had access to PS3 games that at the time you could only stream play, and actually still right now you can only stream play those. You can download PS4 games to your PS4 or PS5 to play, but not PS3 games because the systems aren't designed to actually being able to run those games. So when you see this specific part of the rumor talking about adding functionality for PS1, PS2, PS3, PSP was also mentioned actually, although I think they left Vita out, which hurts a little bit. The kind of first implication I think a lot of people should assume for now is that these games are stream play. These are not games that are going to be downloaded to the system to play because as of right now, as we're all aware, backwards compatibility, at least that far back, doesn't exist on the PS5 or the PS4. And this ties a lot into things that I've been talking about a lot this year in terms of preservation of older games, the ability to access this older content, and how different companies have had different approaches, whether that's Nintendo's subscription service where you just get to have that limited library of games, but they are still downloaded to the system, Xbox offering Game Pass along with just being able to buy individual older games, though the list is not completely comprehensive of the entire back catalog, and Sony, who had some really good stuff going on during the PS3 era, but then dropped it with the PS4, PS5. And the potential of bringing these games back in this form, it's potentially very exciting. Kind of like what I mentioned before with the Nintendo stuff, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of services being the only way to access these older games. I like the option to exist, but the option to have them individually available for sale is a huge benefit. And if we are to assume for right now that the new PlayStation service, assuming it's real in the first place, only offers streamable versions of this game, that does mean that access to these titles would be limited only to that kind of service level for right now. There would be no way to individually own them. And on top of that, you're not even actually playing the games on your system itself, you're relying on an internet connection, which back in the day when they first started PlayStation Now was a lot choppier, but with kind of more standard current internet speeds and a stable wired-in connection, especially playing PS1 or PS2 games, could actually work out very well. The main point I'm trying to make with that is that I'm excited to have access to these older games, but there's still a better version that I would like to see. And here's where the slightly more reaching, definitely kind of keep your hype in check kind of thought comes, but something I do want to explore a little bit. What if this also is a way that backwards compatibility is added to the PlayStation, at least in some limited capacity? There are numerous videos and articles that touch on this subject, and a large part of it stems from the fact that while PS1 and PS2 emulation would be something the PS5 could probably accomplish, PS3 is overall a much trickier situation. And if you think about how PlayStation Now currently operates in the system and what an updated version of it could add, I think there's room to at least explore the concept of, do they add backwards compatibility for at least PS1 and PS2 games? Because we already have a kind of standard right now where PS3 is just straight up not playable in the system. It is, in a sense, through Stream Play, but it's only accessible through that Stream Play. And so with a bigger, better version of the system being released, could they add a system-level feature to at least support on-system play for PS1 and PS2 games? Now, if that were the case, I would heavily hope that while yes, gaining access to these games via this new PlayStation Plus feature would be really cool, I would love for them to also be able to just individually list and sell those games like they did on the PS3 and PS Vita store. There was already a great catalog of PlayStation 1 and PSP games that you could buy on the PlayStation 3 store at an extremely affordable price compared to what it would be to actually hunt down a physical copy of these games. I think one of my favorite examples I always fall back on, Suikoden 2, a game that is $6 on the PlayStation 3 store and is several $100s to find a physical copy. This would be an absolute boon to the system and would be honestly an update that I would lose my mind for. I mean, the same thing happened back when Xbox announced backwards compatibility on the Xbox One. When they showed 360 games and eventually original Xbox games working on the system, that was incredible. And if Sony could do that and open up an even larger catalog of honestly a richer library that I very much love, it would be a massive benefit to the system. Now, to claw back to reality a little bit here, this is again a rumor, and again, even if we are getting these PS1, PS2, and PS3 games, 3 we already kind of have, it is more than likely going to take the form of that stream play service we're already seeing with PlayStation Now. The reason I talk about the concept of backwards compatibility is because PlayStation, again, has a very rich library that I would love to see preserved for more people, and I would hope that this might be one of the first signs of that opening up to more folks. But if it's still limited to just that kind of stream play style format, there's still a bigger, better version that I would love to see Sony embrace. So those are my thoughts, at least on this whole rumor. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you think this is a thing that actually might happen next year? Is it something that you want to see happen? Would you pay more? How much would you pay for the third tier? Because assumingly, the most expensive tier is the one that's opening up those backwards compatible titles. So how much in that case is going to be too much? Because as we've seen with some local dialogue with Nintendo and Nintendo Switch Online, price can be a bit of an issue. Let me know what you guys think. As always, if you enjoyed the video and not subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.